You guys hear that? I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that's a Bigfoot. Let me tell you a story. Most of the northern Sierras are long known for their deer and bear hunting grounds. Even for the Paiute Tribes of California, the Miwok braves would build pole-lined wikis for the hunting season and hunt clear into the 8,000-foot herds. It was known that the Pahi-zoho, or Bigfoot, roamed these lands late into the season, as they were here for the same reason we were: food. The general thought was that the Bigfoot were fattening up for the winter and were just to be left alone. While none of the braves in this camp had ever seen the Pahi-zoho, the stories of those that have were widely told, and it wasn't until Little Wing was out much later than he should have been that all of that changed. Screaming Rooster came to the butcher pit and asked if anyone had seen the young brave, as he should have been back before nightfall. The Pahi-zoho was known to roam the high peaks here, and this year the deer were so lean that we had to venture much higher than years before. Rooster instantly gathered his things, as no one had seen the young brave. He asked myself, Broken Antler, and Three Paws to come with him in search. We took the now well-worn paths into the hunting grounds, as there is where Little Wing should have been returning from, with fresh kills for us to butcher. Deer camps were much like a production line between the hunters, butchers, and the main camp. After the deer were processed, the skins, meat, organs, and tendons would be transported by horse sled back from the hunting grounds to the tribal valley village, a trip that regularly takes one day in and one day back. Many times the fresh blood of the deer kills will attract a bear or a mountain lion, and it'll spook the horses, causing a brave to have to walk back to camp. So that was the course we set on. With the moon at full beam, the mountainside was lit up almost as if it were daytime. The high evergreen trees towered high above us, blocking the sky like the passing clouds during the day. And the dusty, rocky trails were so dry that it would create a dust trail that anyone could follow, as the rains had not fallen in many moons now. It was about 30 minutes into the ride when we spotted the first horse. It was Little Wing's pack horse, still loaded with the deer bodies tied to its back. Three Paws grabbed the pony and tied it up to a nearby tree so we could continue to look for Little Wing. We continued into the night, now more worried than ever. A light fog now started to set in, making things on the ground much harder to see. After another 20 or 30 minutes passed, we saw Little Wing's horse in the distance. Rooster launched his pony into a full run and hopped off at Little Wing's pony's side, and then began screaming and wailing in horror. As we approached, we could see him holding Little Wing in his arms, plainly dead. And as we got closer, it looked as if he had been eaten upon. Whatever had attacked Little Wing was clearly not any normal animal we encountered. The bite marks looked nearly human, yet far too big to be any man's. It had broken his neck in the battle, and at some point began to feast upon his flesh. What type of broken, vile creature would do such a thing? None of this made any sense to any of us, but for now, we had to return Little Wing to camp and make the proper arrangements. We helped Rooster onto his pony and sat Little Wing in front of him, as Three Paws grabbed the last missing pony and we all headed back to camp. As we had passed the place where we had tied the pony up with the deer bodies on it, it was now down on its side and heavy labored breathing, all tangled in the ropes that the deer bodies were completely gone. The ropes discarded, not ripped apart, but actually untied, and now all around the horse's legs. Leaving from the scene were giant bare footprints, much larger than any of the braves in our camp. That was when Screaming Rooster, still tearful in mourning, put it all together and uttered just one word: Pahi-zoho. Three Paws got the pony back to his feet, and we all slowly made our way back to camp. Once back near camp, the three braves collected the attention of the others as they slowly rode past fire after fire with Screaming Rooster and Little Wing at the lead. By the time we got Little Wing down from the horse, many of the others had gathered. Screaming Rooster, filled with sadness and losing of his brother, screamed out in a rage as others began to ask what happened. Pahi-zoho, Pahi-zoho, Pahi-zoho. That is what happened. Nothing else has teeth like a man to cause the wounds and would eat upon a child. As he held his brother close, he then laid him down to rest at the edge of camp. Tonight, we'll start the cry ceremony. Quickly, the camp built a central fire, and the braves moved into their places, each of them in a circle around the fire, dancing, singing, rhythmic shaking of cords, stomping of the feet. It went on for hours and hours until each of them fell out from near exhaustion, and the fire died down. As the last of the embers sparked in the fire pit, we were all awakened by the howl of the Pahi-zoho, and it wasn't very far from us at all. It was long known in the Paiute legend that once a Pahi-zoho attacked and tasted the flesh of a man, that it would only crave that source of food and must be hunted and destroyed to protect the rest of the tribe. So the trio knew what they had to do. Once the daylight broke, they would hunt for its den and see that the right thing was done. At daybreak, Screaming Rooster, Three Paw, and I quickly gathered our war gear, and two others joined us from another camp. Silver Pony and Black Snake were cousins to Little Wing, and would hear no more of being left behind on this needed hunt. Other parties broke up into small groups and began to cover the mountainside in search of the Pahi-zoho that killed Little Wing. Every now and then we would cross paths with another group and share where we had been to search and attempt to cover as much ground as possible. It wasn't until we arrived near the caves and the rock crops that we began to smell it. A pungent odor that could only be described as wet animal and raw sewage mixed with bad food. And then Black Snake noticed the tracks of a man far larger than any of us. Silver Pony launched an arrow high into the air as a signal to any other groups that may be close. We all dismounted, tied the ponies down, and began to search. The smell was evident and becoming more stinging to the eyes and nose, like rotting meat and feces all mixed together. We went around a blind corner, and we moved and saw a surprise water source. A small, moving water leak of a puddle with fresh, bloody, extremely large handprints all around the rim of it. A little further into the rock outcrop, and there we could see it in the corner of the rocks. It was the Pahi-zoho. Badly wounded, with Little Wing's blade wedged plainly in its thigh, Screaming Rooster took no time in placing several arrows into the hulking creature, not so much in revenge, but it seemed more in the pity of the suffering animal, as a tear ran down Rooster's face, and the Pahi-zoho moved no more. The men dragged the creature from its death location out onto the open, as other groups of hunters arrived. Little Wing's blade was thrust so hard into the beast's thigh that it went clear through the bone. Screaming Rooster forced the blade from the creature's leg so hard that you could hear the bone break, and then he collected his arrows and placed the creature's eyes at rest. Upon looking at what appeared to be more man than beast, it was covered in hair from head to toe, nearly all the same length. A large, rounded head sloping backwards with a large ridge above its eyes. The arms longer than a man's through the elbow, hung strangely to the knee, and legs more like a man's than any other creature, seemed muscular and strong, made more for walking than running. The jaw somewhat low on the skull and was full of teeth larger and wider than ours, but built for eating vegetation as much as meat, not what we expected at all. Laying there at peace, we could see why they were looked upon as a lost tribe. It seemed that they were almost nearly men. Nearly. Rooster then bent down and cut a finger from the beast and strung it through a rawhide line and tied it around his neck. Not really knowing what to do next for the creature, the men gathered some rocks in a circle and piled a fire tall without lighting it, a symbol of their respect of its passing. The braves mounted their ponies and followed Screaming Rooster back to camp. As they rode the trail back, they began to realize that this path was the exact trailhead where they had found Little Wing the night before. It was just a chance meeting with a very bad ending. Throughout the entire tribe, all of the braves who could remember actually seeing a Pahi-zoho, this was the only encounter where somebody had actually been attacked. Good or bad, at least we know this one won't attack anyone else in the tribe. Screaming Rooster, Silver Pony, Black Snake, and I gathered up our things at camp and brought Little Ring, now wrapped in a blanket, back down the mountain to the tribe's home in the valley to join the family in the crying ceremony that would last for 3 days and 3 nights in celebration of Little Wing's life, while others on the mountain would do the same. And such is the tale of the Paiute Braves hunting a Bigfoot in the Sierras. Thanks for listening. I'm Reverend Jeff, and may the Squatch be with you.